Welcome to Our College Your Voices. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. Today, I am excited to bring you a one-on-one interview with one of our incredible faculty members, the Associate Professor of Astronomy from our Bloomington campus, Kurt Messick. And we're going to talk about sort of all things Kurt's story, as well as a really special project he's done this year. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about that. So let's meet Kurt. Hi, Kurt.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, this is, I think, my 31st or 32nd year with the college in one capacity or another. I started back, I believe, in 1988 as an evening coordinator, and I've been part-time staff, part-time faculty, full-time staff, and full-time faculty. So I think I've got all the N's and the E's in my column.
Absolutely.
In terms of that. I've done other things along the way. I'm usually doing 2 or 3 or 5 jobs at the same time. So you look at my resume and it's like, how does that add up? I'm also currently in my 22nd year as chaplain at Beltrace Retirement Community in Bloomington. And among other things I've done in the past, I've taught for the American Military University. I was their department chair for philosophy and religion for about 10 years. And I think my greatest claim to fame until now, being on this podcast, was that I worked for Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s back in England from 1985 to 88. And that was quite the experience. Not to be missed if one can do that. It's sort of like Ernest Hemingway's, if you're ever lucky enough to be in Paris as a young man, well, if you're ever lucky enough to work for Margaret Thatcher as a young person, yeah, even if you don't agree with her, and as I've gotten older, I've figured out that politics is one of those weird areas where, and in today's environment, I think it's important, you can actually still respect people without agreeing with them.
Absolutely.
And she was one of those persons, even though back then she would have been someone you would have said, oh, well, she's so controversial. Today, it's sort of like, well, that's just run of the mill.
Yep. That's such a good message too, because that idea that I don't have to agree with you to respect you, to take your opinions and your thoughts seriously, to listen to you, to have a good debate with you. That is so important in this season that we're in.
I think so. And I think especially as I've been encountering different views from my students. Now, of course, I teach astronomy. Mm-hmm. I used to teach political science for us. Among my various degrees, I also taught world politics and American politics. And I remember teaching the American government class in 2007 and 2008, which was the transition from Bush to Obama. And it was tricky to navigate because you want to respect the views of the students as well as your colleagues, but at the same time, you want to be sure that they're doing things intelligently. Mm-hmm. And I think that's even more important today. And I think part of my job as a professor now of science is to help people understand what the real goals are of understanding facts and understanding the difference between fact and opinion. There was, I think it was Daniel Patrick Moynihan who said, everyone's entitled to his or her own opinions, but not his or her own facts.
Yes.
And I think we need to get back to that idea.
I think you have the attribution of that right, because I know I've used that quote a few times, and that's who I attribute it to. So 2 of us make it right. No, that's still not a fact.
No,
we'll fact check ourselves and make sure we're right.
But see, in biblical studies, we would call that multiple independent attestation. If you have people who haven't gotten together to square their story who are saying the same thing, it's more likely to be correct.
This is true.
So, and sometimes I teach that. I actually do the occasional adjunct stint at Oakland City University down in Bedford, where sometimes I also teach courses for Ivy Tech. I'm always very careful that I only teach courses for them that we don't offer as Ivy Tech.
That's very good of you.
But they teach New Testament and Old Testament and other things, and I'm qualified to teach those remarkably. So I hope I teach them remarkably. And I spent 5 years as a stand-up comic. So if you think what I said should be a joke, it probably is.
And that is going to tie back into part of what we're here to talk about, what the title of the episode is about. I do want to dig in for a second because you have such a varied background And you do teach in a lot of different discipline areas. And one of the things you and I have dialogue about regularly is you are one of the few people I would actually give the term professional student to.
Yes. And right now I'm doing a managerial finance class. I'm working on my MBA,
Okay.
also with the American Military University. And this is my 5th master's degree with them. I have others apart from that as well, including my Master's of Divinity from Christian Theological Seminary, which is next to Butler University. So I'm holier than thou because I am Father Kurt. I am the very Reverend Kurt. When you were talking about titles,
Yes.
that's one of my titles as well. So my students always wonder, what should I call you? And it's like, hey, you, here's some M&Ms. I mean, that's just fine
Right.
for me. And I think having a varied background helps me with our students because I don't just know astronomy. I don't just know earth science. It's like half the students in my online class are studying business, and it's like, hey, I just got done with my marketing class. Let's talk about it.
Right.
And did you know you can use the NASA website for images and they're copyright free, and that can be your packaging for whatever you're doing? And they're like, wow. So yeah.
Excellent. And you're also an accomplished author of at least 2 books that I know of personally, because I think they're on my bookcase.
I published a book on Margaret Thatcher. I did a case study of how she dealt with, or didn't, as the case might be, apartheid in South Africa during her tenure as the prime minister in England. And I have 2 books of poetry that are still in print. And I had a 3rd one that fell out of print. And I have a couple of others that I've helped with, 2 of which have just been published in the last couple of months. One of which was a biography of a local Indiana comic who passed away unexpectedly over the summer.
Oh my goodness.
And I helped put together a biography for him that's just became available on Amazon 2 weeks ago. And then I published something on my Facebook, so if you want to join my Facebook, please do, called The Daily Wilford. I am fostering a cat, a big fat orange cat named Wilford, and his owner is off exploring the United States right now because he can work online like many of us. So he said, I'm just going to take my laptop and work from wherever. But the cat couldn't go along with him. So I post up a picture every day of Wilford so his owner can see him. It's called The Daily Wilford. And people said, you should do a book of that. So there's a book available as of this week.
Excellent.
Called The Weekly Wilford. And The Weekly Wilford, you have on one page a picture of Wilford and on the other page a weekly calendar that you can use for planning for 2021. And please, 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 may 2021 be better.
Oh, I know.
It has to be because Wilford will be on every page.
That's right. That's right. I will link to those in the show notes. I might need your help getting some links to a couple of them, but I will make sure we link to all of those in the show notes. And Wilford is pretty fun. I've seen him on Facebook, so everybody should check him out.
He is quite a lot of fun. And I'm really hoping that by this time, maybe 18 months from now, I will have another book from what I call a big boy press, Oxford University Press.
Wow.
Doesn't get much better than that.
No.
I went to England with the Alternative Spring Break Group in March, which is a group we take from Bloomington over there. And because of my connections there, they utilized my expertise. We went to Parliament and we went to Westminster Abbey. We went to a quaint little village called Nunney that I go to all the time. But I broke away from the students for a day or two to go over to Oxford and talk to Oxford University Press about a book that I've been writing on Tycho Brahe. And Tycho Brahe is the last great astronomer before the age of telescopes.
Cool.
He died in 1601. Galileo started with the telescope in 1608, 1609. So as Get Smart might say, missed it by that much. But his observations were so great that they were using his stuff over the telescope for at least 100 years.
Oh, wow.
And if Tycho hadn't been there, Kepler would not have been there either, because Kepler used Tycho's work to figure out not only confirming the sun is in the center of our solar system, but that things don't go around in perfect circles.
The elliptical orbits.
And how the mathematics of our solar system works.
Oh, that is so cool.
And that led directly to Galileo and Newton figuring out, without someone being careful in what he's doing, like Tycho Brahe, we would not have all of the other steps that come later.
Right.
And I pitched to them the idea. They have a series called the Very Short Introduction Series, which are like 100 pages, sort of quick and fast. They've done one on Copernicus. They've done one on Galileo. They've done one on Newton. I said, hey, what about this guy? They said, well, there's really no one to write it. I said, guess what? There is now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because the guy who wrote the big 900-page book on Tycho was my professor at IU back in the 1980s.
Okay.
And he passed away in the 1990s, hence there's no one to write this. I said, well, this guy was my professor while he was writing that other book. They're like, that could work.
Yeah.
So they've tentatively accepting the manuscript.
That's awesome.
I think it should be fun. And then, of course, everything shut down because of the pandemic, which is why I have no idea of the timing of it all. But yeah, I go on my Facebook and you'll see my picture standing in front of Oxford University Press and smiling broadly because I just come from the meeting.
That's awesome. I love it. So I think we hit on two of the connections that bring us here is that number one, you do go and make big asks sometimes. And you are a stand-up comic that is in your history. And that led to this project that you did, or I don't know, I'll call it a project. You can give it a better name if you want to, that I think you coined celebrity shout-outs. So can you tell us a little bit about this and how it started?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And it did lead sort of almost directly from comedy. Also, I learned a long time ago, if you don't ask, you don't get. And the most they're usually going to say is no.
Right.
So why not ask? And I dealt with people like Margaret Thatcher and others. So I am not intimidated in the least. There are few people in the world more intimidating. So yeah. So I'm quite unashamed in my asking. But from my experience as a comic, I'm the kind of person who, when I'm not on a show, I usually sit in the front row because I know other comics like people in the front row. People shy away from that. And they like responsive people in the front row so they can work with you. Because beyond the first few rows on the stage, you usually can't see anyone. It's too dark.
Right.
So I do that. And then I stick around afterwards to chat with them. And sometimes they'll charge extra for that, but usually they'll take a selfie and other kinds of things. In the pandemic situation, most comedy shows shut down. So some comics have been innovative and started doing online shows. One of the comics doing that is John Cleese of Monty Python. Yes, Monty Python's Flying Circus. So I signed up to see an online show of his. And they were offering for just a little bit extra a meet and greet afterwards, a Zoom meet and greet afterwards for a couple of minutes. And so I said, yes, I'm all for that. And my intention there was just to meet him. He referenced in his routine a philosopher of science named Karl Popper. No one references Karl Popper. No one even in the philosophy of science, unless you're in a conference, references Karl Popper. Here's a guy who's referencing Karl Popper and saying, I almost went to Cambridge as a scientist. I'm like, I've got to record this Zoom and share it with my students. And I told him that as we were doing this, I said, I want to share this with my students. And he was, we were supposed to have a 2-minute meet and greet. He chatted for 5 minutes. It was just going on and on and on. I could sense the people behind the scenes who usually press the "we're done now" button, wanting to stop, but he just kept talking and talking. So I posted that up, and the students were just like, oh, wow, you got someone like this to talk to us.
Right.
And I thought, yeah, this will work. This will work. So in our break, I decided, one friend said that I carpet bombed Hollywood with requests. And I concentrated in two particular groups. One was the comedy group, people I've met or people I know who are known by other people. So half a dozen of the videos that I have are people I actually know from the comedy world. And then another half dozen are people who are friends of friends who got to me. But they include people like Fred Stoller, who was an extra on Seinfeld and Friends and Everybody Loves Raymond. I would put up his video and people would say, oh, that's that guy. It's like, yes, of course. And Marsha Warfield, who is on Night Court, she even makes fun of it in her video. She says, well, if you don't know who I am, you need to ask an old person like your instructor. And it's like, well, gee, thanks. Then I just got one from Penn Jillette, Penn and Teller fame.
Cool.
So they're still coming in. I got at least 2 people from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Mm-hmm. And I've met them at comedy shows here in Indiana. The other group was the science fiction group, because I know science fiction and science have a great tie-in.
Right.
And I've been amazed at the number of science fiction stars like Jerry Ryan, who was 7 of 9 on Voyager, or Robert Picardo, who is the doctor on Voyager, or Walter Koenig, who is the Ensign Chekhov on the original series, all went into college to study science originally. They're science nerds already.
That's awesome.
Here's Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9, saying, well, it was a choice between theater or biomedical technology. That's a choice. And Robert Picardo, he was actually my second video. I think he was very excited to do it because he, without any prompting of mine, said, I studied biology, I love science. And he was wearing a jacket with a pin. You know, we all have our little Ivy Tech pins. Yep. And he was wearing with the pin of the Planetary Society.
Oh, very cool.
Which was founded by Carl Sagan 40 years ago. And he mentions that. He mentions how important science is to him personally and how important science education is to our entire society. Again, all without any prompting whatsoever. But a lot of the Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica and even Smallville, the Superman show, the people in this are used to going around to the conventions and meeting people and interacting with the fans. And I think as soon as they find out I'm not just another fanboy asking for a video, but I want it for my classes, they just light up. And it's like, oh, yes, let's do this. Brent Spiner is another, Commander Data from Star Trek The Next Generation. Again, I was supposed to have just a couple of minutes with him, and he chatted for 10 minutes and just kept talking and talking and talking. And it was great. It was really, really great.
It was a great conversation. I'll link to several of them in the show notes. If you're going to watch one, I would watch that one. I mean, it's my favorite, I think.
Yeah, Brent Spiner is a really good one. William Shatner is a good one, too.
It is.
You can't do better than Professor Kirk with Captain Kirk. I mean, there you go. Gotta have those. Every time anyone gets my name wrong, it's Kirk. It's like, I'm not the captain. I'm just with the T. But I'm still working on some others, and I've gotten a few that have been really innovative. There's a guy that no one's heard of named Daniel Davis. But you should have heard of him. If you've ever watched the show The Nanny, he was the butler on The Nanny.
Oh,
but
I loved him.
He played in 2 episodes in Star Trek as Moriarty, a virtual character. And I know so many people who didn't realize that was the same actor until I pointed it out. And they're like, oh, that was the same guy.
I've watched the Moriarty video twice, and I didn't know it until you just said that. So
yeah. He did the video for my class in character.
Yes.
He wrote the stuff as Moriarty I did not write that script. He wrote that script himself.
Oh, that's awesome.
And did it in character as Moriarty. And one of the other things that I did was, because he did that, I asked him if he'd make a birthday present for a friend of mine. Another colleague of ours, Kyle Hetrick, is a big Star Trek fan. He has the ships hanging from the ceiling in his office. And so Daniel Davis did a birthday shout out as Moriarty to Kyle. And I thought that was really fun. So yeah, I've got all of these. One thing that's amazing to me is the number of students I find who don't know Star Trek at all.
Aww.
Like LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton did one of these for me. He was really great. So many students have told me, I had no idea he was on Star Trek. He's the Reading Rainbow guy.
Well, I'm glad they know him from Reading Rainbow. I mean, that's where they
knew him from.
That's
good.
Good.
And then I have some people who are even older in my chaplaincy who didn't know either one of those, but remembered him from Roots.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Way back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So these people are sort of getting a new life here and there. But I think the biggest star in terms of sort of star power I have would have to be Christopher Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
And he did what I call the midnight shout out because he was pressed for time and he didn't have a lot of time, but he's like, sure, I can give you a minute and a half. So he did this, and it was rather funky, and you can tell it's done at midnight.
Yep.
One of my students said, "How high do you think he was?" I said,
good. It wasn't just me that thought that.
Yeah, I said, I don't think that was the case. I think it was midnight and he didn't have a lot of time, but he still took the time to do it.
He did.
And I was just absolutely amazed at that.
Yeah.
A lot of these people will do this on various video services for birthday shout outs and anniversary shout outs and stuff like that. And if you purchase their services, it can cost a lot of money.
Right.
Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9, charges $345 for a shout out.
Wow.
That's pretty expensive.
It is.
But she just started doing this a couple of weeks ago. And Robert Picardo, who I'd already gotten as the doctor on Voyager, is a close friend of hers, and he's the one who got Jerry Ryan to be doing these. And he said, you've got to have a couple to show people what you can do. So I think I got the third one she'd ever done.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I didn't pay $345. I did pay $50.
Right.
And the reason I paid $50 is because she donates $50 of every one of these to the LA Food Bank.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so whenever one of these people has asked me to donate to a charity in return, I've happily done that.
Absolutely.
And I'll freely confess, because we all got the bonus. That's where my bonus went, actually, is to charity in return, because it was a win-win-win in all of these different directions.
Absolutely.
But my spreadsheet shows that if I'd paid full market price for all of these videos that I have, it would come to $4,854.
That's amazing.
So this is a great contribution to our college.
It is
on the part of these people.
Absolutely.
And there's some of them that are just sort of the straight to camera shout outs, and there's some through a program called GalaxyCon, where they typically do the hotel based conventions,
right? But
that's off the board right now because of the pandemic,
right?
So they're doing the Zoom meetings and the one-on-one meetings for their. One of the founders of GalaxyCon used to work for the Herald Times here in Bloomington.
Okay.
And I knew her when I was the PR director for Ivy Tech in Bloomington. So guess how I've been able to get Brent Spiner and Walter Koenig and William Shatner and Nana Visitor from Deep Space Nine and Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, both from Smallville. Michael Rosenbaum is from Evansville.
I did not know that.
Actually from Newburgh, just outside of Evansville. So when I mentioned Ivy Tech to him, he knew, of course, right away. Oh, yeah.
Right.
And didn't know that Bloomington's a little bit closer to Evansville now. He thought it was still 3.5 hours, but he doesn't know how fast we drive on 69.
Because there's nothing else to stop at. You just go.
Exactly. Yeah, gas up in Bloomington. There are no gas stations between. I think there's one gas station between the whole way. So yeah, it's like the Autobahn going down that road.
It is. So Kurt, how are you using these with your students? What's their reaction been?
Well, we just finished our first 8 weeks, and I posted up a discussion board for extra credit in the 2 courses that we're ending, asking students to let me know what they thought. And I have had one class that's met in lab situation face-to-face. And so the ones that we met face-to-face, I would always start each of the sessions with one of the videos. One of the ones that was most popular was there's a comedian who is on NBC's Last Comic Standing named Kristen Key. And she sang a song for our group. She composed a song about being in college. You need to expand your knowledge at Ivy Tech Community College. I thought that was a great rhyme.
That is fabulous.
Yes, and you're taking classes rather than staring out into the void. You're keeping your instructor employed, which I thought was another great rhyme and a great purpose for going to class.
That's right.
But I would always start out with one of those, and I would get their immediate reactions. Then I just posted the whole list of links and said I didn't have time to show you all of them because I never expected to get 45 videos.
Right.
I only expected to get half a dozen maybe. And I said, which ones worked, which one doesn't? They were all so happy to have received these. They were impressed. They were sort of thrilled that people like this would be paying attention to what they were doing, that would care about what they were doing. And some got specific, like Marina Sirtis, who is Counselor Troy on Star Trek. I got her, I think hers was probably an early morning video. And the reason why I say this is I sent the request like at 11 o'clock at night, and by 8 a.m. it was there. I mean, she was on it. But I think she was at first not quite sure what to say, and then she got a brilliant idea. You could almost see the light bulb go off in her head. She said, I think women in science is very important. And she went on about that, and she was absolutely right.
Yeah.
So there was something a little bit for everyone in there. The students, some of the comments that I got back were sort of really, truly appreciative and really in some ways humbled that people like this might in fact be paying attention to what they were doing. And I think that's one of the really great things, that it connects the outside world with what's going on in the classroom in a way you would have never thought possible.
Right.
And I'm going to see if I can find here very quickly some of my comments. I have a couple of comments. One is, I love and appreciate all the videos from everyone. I think it's the coolest thing a teacher has ever done for their students. And I think it's pretty cool too. I didn't actually plan it all this way. It just fell into place. And another, I asked the question, is this worthwhile? And one person said, yes, 1,000 times yes. I wouldn't ever expect so many actors that I've watched for years that they could be reaching out to little old me. More importantly, they are reaching out to education and the sciences, which reinforces my respect for them as actors and human beings. And then another person said, having the I wonder who's next factor and seeing the celebrities was very exciting, because I had so many that I started doing sort of one at the beginning of the week and one in the middle of the week, and was trying to put those together. I ended up with so many, like for Star Trek The Next Generation, that I stitched them all together into a video, and realizing that some people didn't know who they were.
Right.
I took clips off of YouTube from the show. So
cool.
Denise Crosby is Tasha Yar. So I have a bit of Tasha Yar from the show, and then I have her shout out, and then a bit from Gates McFadden, who is Dr. Crusher, and then her shout out, and a bit from LeVar Burton as Geordie LaForge, and then his shout out.
Awesome.
And that way they can watch the whole thing in context.
Is that on your personal YouTube channel? That's
on my personal YouTube channel too.
Okay. I think I have that link, and I'll put that in the show notes. So,
and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the next, like I have time this week, so I'm making one up for Voyager in the same way. And I'll do one for Battlestar Galactica, because I have 4 people from Battlestar Galactica. I have 2 Cylons and 2 humans, so it's balanced. And I have 2 more people who have said they're sending me videos this week. I still have videos coming in.
Oh, fantastic.
So that'll be 6. And the balance will still be there. 1 more human, 1 more Cylon. But I'm going to stitch those together with clips from the show so people can see who's who and what's. Because they might recognize the character more than the actor, especially since it's been some years. And every now and then I get these videos and it's like, you don't look at all like what you looked on the show.
Right.
And of course, Marina Sirtis said, of course, she actually started it out by saying, I'm Marina Sirtis, for those of you who have no idea who I am. and of course, that was pretty true. who knows exactly who these people are unless you're really fans.
Right.
But I think I'm making it accessible to people who aren't necessarily fans to still
absolutely
be part of it. And for some of the comics, I actually went intentionally to comics I know who don't have a high TVQ.
Right.
One is named Andrew Knox. And Andrew Knox did a 3-minute comedy routine for the whole class. And people just absolutely loved it because he was so involved and so invested in making people laugh while talking about the class itself. And then there was Sarah Benincasa, again, a name no one's going to know. But now they all know her as the person who did a routine and promised everyone they would get an A if they watched the video because I told her that they would. And so they're like, I didn't quite say that. And then there was Didi Sorbino. And Didi Sorbino is probably right now best known through her husband. Her husband is Paul Sorbino, who is on Goodfellas.
Yes.
And also on Law and Order.
Yes.
Didi was an anchor and a host here in Indianapolis, here in Indiana.
Right.
And she's a blogger and an author and a comic and all of these things. And so I wrote to her and said, can we get a shout out video? So she said, well, I'm a professional, so I'm going to have to charge you. She charged me $1. And she did a 3.5-minute video. And if you watch this video, it's rather clever. She has a song playing in the background. She blinded me with science.
Oh, and that's so good.
And she's wearing a scarf that she says is her astronomy scarf. Didi actually graduated from Hanover College, but her very last class was an earth science class taken online through Ivy Tech.
Yay!
I mean, what better connection could we have?
That's right.
So, and she just sent me another video today because Jennifer Rusk here in Bloomington asked me if I could get any videos for the ASAP group. So she just sent me one for the ASAP group. Aww. And Kristen Key actually sent me one. She wrote a song for the ASAP group as well. And Kristen Key is also doing one for Phi Theta Kappa.
That's awesome.
And I know this project has grown a little bit because Samantha Arnold, who is our PTK director here at Bloomington, we were on a chancellor chat and she said that she's gotten Jesse Eisenberg to come in for the Phi Theta Kappa event in November. And she gave me credit. So I will give her credit. We'll give everyone a credit. But she said she was inspired by what I did to reach out. And Jesse Eisenberg is a local here in Bloomington. So that was a natural connection as well.
Absolutely. I did not realize that.
When I was running the show at Bear's Place, running the comedy show, he and his agent stopped by and he wanted to have stage time. And I said, this is really a low-key kind of show. I'm not sure this is the kind of place you want. So I told his agent, you really want the Comedy Attic. They're sort of they're the major star kind of place. And 6 months later, who should be on the Attic stage I see on the site but Jesse Eisenberg. So yep, that was the right fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it's the people who are not famous who work harder. It's like there used to be a rental company, I don't remember who it was, who said we're second, so we try harder.
Yes,
that was their tagline. Maybe it was Avis, maybe it was Hertz. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. Sort of, I guess that's bad marketing if you can't remember whose tagline it was. But they might not be around anymore if they were number 2. So who knows? Who knows?
Right.
Sort of like Everready and Energizer batteries. Everyone thinks the Energizer Bunny is being run by Everready batteries. It's like, sure, why not? Hey, what? So go into Burger King and ask for a Big Mac. They're like, you're in the wrong place.
That's right.
But yeah, from some of the feedback, I asked a specific question on the end of the term discussion board about the comedy ones, right? Because I knew there was a natural tie-in with the science fiction.
Right.
And one of the things I've heard back is that they really enjoyed all of those. And they thought that it brought in some levity and some humor and some less serious aspects to the class so they could lighten up a bit.
Right.
And Greg Proops, who is on Whose Line Is It Anyway? He actually fell into my lap in a comedy show once because he misjudged where the edge of the stage was. And as I mentioned, I'm always in the front row, so you know, catch a falling star. So I wrote him and I said, people are stressing out because they're online. They weren't intending to be online.
Right.
The virtual setting is not always what they're anticipating. So he literally starts his video by saying, "Okay, lighten up. It's not as bad as you think." And
that's right.
And it was quite a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So now, in light of that, that's why I got Penn Jillette yesterday. I sent out several more requests over the weekend, having heard that,
right.
And so I have now several more comedians who are coming on board. So this, as they say, this ain't over yet.
No. Well, and I will just say, you've sent me one every couple of weeks. I say, just here a couple more, and they've always landed in my inbox at a time when I needed just a little lift. And I think that's the thing right now. We're all just so tired. And they're just a wonderful way to lift people's spirits. Whether it's a science fiction star taking the time to tell our students, you're important, you matter, and science is important, or whether it's a comedian passing on a laugh. They've brightened my spirit. So I can only imagine what they've done for students.
Oh, yes. And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be Jesse Eisenberg. It doesn't have to be William Shatner or anyone like that. I mean, they're great to get, but I wouldn't expect... I know not everyone has the contacts, but the thing is, everyone has contacts to someone somewhere.
Yep.
One of my best received videos is actually a guy named Terry Virts. And nobody knows Terry Virts, except Terry Virts is actually Colonel Terry Virts, space shuttle pilot. And he did a video. He has a website of astrophotography. I have 3 or 4 students who now want to become astrophotographers for their career, based on his video and his website.
Right.
So if you are looking for a best practice, one of the best practices is not to spend $4,854 on videos, either from our dwindling S&E budgets or from your personal salary, but reach out to people that you know. I mean, some of the best videos that I have are the comics who charged no money because nobody knows who they are, but they were a lot of fun. And you can get sometimes maybe local radio announcers, maybe local TV people, maybe people out in the community in your profession. I could see lawyers and others in the business field doing little videos of encouragement for people in those relevant classes. I'm not sure having a lawyer talk to my astronomy class is the right fit.
Right.
But when I was teaching American government, I got 2 members of the Indiana State House to come and talk to my class. One Democrat, one Republican. Interestingly, neither of them are still with the party that they were 15 years ago.
That's interesting.
So it's sort of the way things change.
Yeah.
One's an independent, one's a libertarian now. But I did try to keep that kind of balance.
Right.
And they were happy to be invited and happy to come. And so you can you can do guest speakers through Zoom or guest speakers by just doing their own video, and they don't have to be long. Tell people, give me a 1 minute shout out, give me a 1.5 minute shout out. Because here's the other thing I've noticed: YouTube gives me stats behind the scenes, who's clicked on them, what they've done. It also shows me how long they've stayed on the video. And the number of times that people will click away after 30 to 45 seconds, even with a 1.5 minute long video. I'm like, come on, guys, it's only 1.5 minutes.
Right.
You can't, it's like, I know you're going to waste more time than that on Candy Crush. Or is Candy Crush still a thing? I don't know.
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm still playing Civ 2, so that's my black hole of time sink. It's like I still have an old XP laptop that I purposely don't upgrade because I want to still be able to play Civ 2 on it. I never connect to the internet with it because I don't need to. I have something better. But I still have that laptop, and it is just Civ 2. Here's the sad part of my life. That's the second XP laptop that I have. I burned out the first one on Civ 2. So it's like, why is Kurt's grades late? Well, there's a Civ 2 thing to do.
I'll remember
No.
that the next time you're on one of those lists of late grades that got to get off SEM too.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. No, usually I reward myself after I've done things with that. So
that's the way to use rewards. Very good.
That and peanut M&Ms. Those are my rewards. But yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun to get the people that I've gotten, but I think it's also going to be fun to try to get some others. I'm starting to branch out to IU faculty in astronomy and physics.
Yeah.
To get them to do videos like this, since I used to take people to the IU Observatory. We have the Kirkwood Observatory, and because of the pandemic, it's closed. And that was a usual Wednesday night extra credit thing because they have an open house every Wednesday. But I think in place of that, what I'm going to start doing, and I've had a couple of yes responses from them, is I'll post up every Wednesday night a video from someone in the astronomy department there.
That's awesome.
And people can log in and watch that. And again, it'll be 2 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I'll have 2 or 3 questions based on what they said. And you can get some extra credit points with the questions. And I'll make sure one of them's at the end of the video. So if they log off after 45 seconds, they miss that question. Watch the whole video.
Watch the whole video. But I do that too. I mean, if I'm watching a YouTube video, it doesn't matter how long it is. I'll miss a part of it. So that's what all YouTube does. I mean, that's just the model they have. So
that's human nature. It really is.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, this has been so much fun. I've loved seeing the videos as they've come in. Can you share your spreadsheet with all of them in it? Because I know I have several. Is that something you could share with us for the show notes?
I can do that. Yes.
Okay.
And of course, that'll be the spreadsheet to date. They keep rolling in. We might have some more. I'll also put my YouTube channel link there, so people can, if you want to subscribe, you can do that. I also post all of my videos for my lectures. So my earth science and astronomy lectures are all up there as well.
And they're exceptional. I love watching your lectures. They're great.
Well, they're not as fun as the other things, but one of the things I've also noticed, the students don't watch those to the end either. But those are 45 minutes long or so. Right. So I can understand that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. One of the things I've been thinking about doing, I may experiment with this for the second 8 weeks, is actually stitching a shout out video onto the lecture video.
Oh, yeah.
So that they're sort of segueing from one end to the other.
Right.
And
that's a great idea. I love that.
And playing along with that way. I've also edited a couple of them so that I clip, like almost everyone says Ivy Tech or Ivy Tech Community College. So there's one in there that's just a minute of all these people saying Ivy Tech, Ivy Tech, Ivy Tech, Ivy Tech. They also say my name in quite a number of them. So what I'm going to do is, in the sort of syllabus discussion, I'm going to have the clip with them all saying my name multiple times, and then the clip with them all saying the college several times.
Hopefully your students will know your name then. Yeah.
And then here's a cheat. Here's a cheat. And if any of you want to do this, feel free to do this as well. I'll put the link in here. Snoop Dogg, who charges $750 for a clip. I mean, he's like breaks the bank on that. Did a 28-second clip on why you need to read the syllabus. And he did this for someone else's class somewhere else, but that person posted it on YouTube.
Okay.
So I have copied that. I put my little green banner down below. Usually I say like the name Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker.
Right.
For Snoop Dogg, I just put Snoop Dogg. You know who he is. You don't need anything else for that.
No.
But it's generic enough that anyone can use it. It doesn't mention my name. It mentioned the other university. I clipped that out. So edited that out. So we can all use it. Snoop Dogg telling our students to read the syllabus. If Snoop Dogg can't get them to do it,
nobody can.
I know. But it's worth a try. And just sort of posting that in the classroom area where the syllabus is. So as they're scrolling down, there's Snoop Dogg. They're like, oh, let's click on that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we end every episode with a call to action. So I think that's a perfect ending for our call to action today, which is to check out the show notes. There are going to be lots of links in there, and add Snoop Dogg to your syllabus. And also, I think the other one, as Kurt, you said today, is to use your connections and to just ask, because the worst thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to tell you no. And you have certainly seen, Kurt, the benefit of asking, because these videos are fantastic. I can't wait for people to see them. They're so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see who else comes in.
Yeah.
I was just interviewed today for Channel 13 in Indianapolis. The ulterior motive of that interview is they want to shop it to the Today Show. And so it may end up being on the Today Show.
How
so
fun.
We're purposely, there's one big get that I don't have. I don't have Patrick Stewart. And they said, well, we'll try and mention, if we get it on the Today Show, we'll try to mention that we want Patrick Stewart. So we'll see if that ever comes through. But yeah, Captain Picard, I really want Captain Picard.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so today we're recording this October 20th. The segment on the Channel 13 News here in Indiana should come out on the 22nd in the morning, right? And if we have updates on that, we will put them in the show notes. This will come out early November. So we will keep track of what's happened and see what else comes of this. So Kurt, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been just a fun conversation and just good to catch up with you. It's good to see you, even if it is still through a screen. Thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of Our College Your Voices. Again, thanks to Associate Professor Kurt Messick and all of your other mini titles and honorifics that go with that. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. Don't forget, you can connect with me on Twitter at KNM Tweets. You can reach us by email at ourcollegeyourvoices@ivtech.edu. Leave us a voicemail at 317-572-5049. Don't forget, if you're an Ivy Tech faculty or staff member, you can join our Microsoft Teams listener community. I send instructions on that every Thursday. Our website is ivtech.edu/podcast. Production assistance for this and every episode provided by Becky Campbell, Sarah Ferguson, and the Ivy Tech Community College Marketing and Creative Services team. And our podcast concept is by Matthew Pittman. Theme music and post-production services provided by the amazing Jen Eads at the Brassy Broadcasting Company. We will talk to you next time on Our College, Your Voices.